Hello and welcome to episode number 127, where I talk with Dr. Kulreet Chaudhary about her fascinating new book, Sound Medicine, How to Use the Ancient Science of Sound to Heal the Body and the Mind. Dr. Chaudhary also gives great advice on how to use mantra in our own lives to keep our body and mind in balance and stress-free. So please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Elements of Ayurveda, Empowering Wisdom of Life. I'm your host, Colette, and in this podcast, I hope to empower you to take charge of your own health by sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. We will also discuss topics like health and wellness, nutrition, yoga, fitness, meditation, breath work, and much more, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to each other. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the show, and the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend you listen to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. I've also set up a Facebook group for us to connect and to support each other, and I'd love for you to join me over at Elements of Ayurveda podcast group. And now here's the show. Hello and welcome back to Elements of Ayurveda. Today I'm very happy to introduce you to Dr. Kulreet Chaudhary, and we're going to talk about her new book, Sound Medicine. But let me first of all introduce you to Dr. Chaudhary. She has combined expertise in both modern neurology and Ayurveda, and she has uniquely positioned herself as an expert able to pull from the broadest possible base to treat her clients. Dr. Chaudhary is passionate about raising awareness for the need of a paradigm shift in contemporary medicine that focuses on patient empowerment and a health-based rather than a disease-based medical system. Dr. Chaudhary was the director of Wellspring Health in Scripps Memorial Hospital for 10 years and remains a pioneer in the field of integrative medicine. She is currently the head of the Sri Narayani Holistic Center in Tamil Nadu in India, where she is not only implementing the use of ancient practices such as sound medicine into the treatment of chronic disease, but also studying the ancient Siddha texts that have been hidden from public view for centuries. Dr. Chaudhary is the author of The Prime and her current book, Sound Medicine, and she's appeared as a medical expert on numerous programs including the Dr. Oz Show and the Home and Family Show. Dr. Chaudhary is a neuroscientist and has participated in over 20 clinical research studies in the areas of multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, ALS, and diabetic peripheral neuropathy. Her research includes groundbreaking work in stem cell therapies for diabetic peripheral neuropathy and drug development for the treatment of ALS. Dr. Chaudhary, given your vast experience, there's so much I want to talk to you about today. However, we're going to focus on your new book, Sound Medicine, How to Use the Ancient Science of Sound to Heal the Body and Mind. Welcome to the show, Dr. Chaudhary.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be able to connect to you all the way from the U.S. I love how small our world is getting.
Right? Absolutely. This technology allows us to reach out across the world. And for me, it's provided the ability to share this fascinating wisdom of Ayurveda, and you are going to share some fascinating wisdom with us today. And I've just read your book, which I want to focus on today, Sound Medicine. You shared such a wealth of information in this book, and I'm really excited to share it with the listeners today. But I think where I want to start, Dr. Chaudhary, is at the very start, because your own personal journey is fascinating and how you were guided throughout your life to get to the point where you are today, sharing this knowledge with the world. Can you please share with us a little bit about your personal story and how it all started at a young age with your mother's guidance?
Absolutely. Looking back, I think we all feel this when we look back at our lives. we realized that it was scripted in a sense for a certain outcome. And now as I'm doing the work I'm doing, as I look back, I go, oh, everything really prepared me for this moment. And and each one of us has such a unique offering to the world. And so we're prepared in a very, very, individualized and unique way to share. And so my journey began really at the age of 9 years of age, when my mother developed a thyroid condition, and she went to a physician. It was just a regular, endocrinologist. And he had made the connection that her thyroid condition was deeply connected to the stress of being uprooted from her native country of India, losing all of the family support, and just the strain of adjusting to a new country, a new pace. And so he, somewhat miraculously for that time, recommended transcendental meditation in addition to giving some medications just to help with some of her symptoms. He didn't start her on any other medications and just started her on meditation. And within 6 months, her thyroid had completely normalized. And so she immediately had my sister and I learn transcendental meditation, which is a form of mantra meditation. And that was the beginning of this journey into understanding that there's the world that you see, but there's also a silent inner reality that is ultimately the source for the world that you see. And that when you can tap into that inner reality, you're able to narrate your experience in life by helping to relax and rid the mind of negative programs. And so that was really my beginning. And it's not that I came to those conclusions at 9 years of age, but it became just such a subconscious understanding of the reality of life. And I carried that throughout my life. And of course, once I entered into the medical profession, all of the wisdom that my mom had brought kind of dropped away, because I was immersed in this new culture that knew better and was better and, was bigger. And, you kind of naturally fall into that programming of any kind of a strong culture that you enter into. And medicine is a very strong culture. And so during my medical training, in part just due to the demands of the training, I fell away from some of the traditional practices that, my mom had introduced me through meditation and also through Ayurvedic medicine. And so it wasn't until I completed my training as a neurologist and developed migraine headaches and could not cure my own headaches. Despite being a neurologist, I had horrible side effects to the medications. So I was struggling between the side effects of the medications and suffering from the pain of the headaches. And that moment of pure humility, which is oftentimes it's the antidote to arrogance, is humility. And so in that moment of humility, I, reached out to my mom because nothing else was helping. And she reintroduced me to Ayurvedic medicine. And I went deeper into my meditation practice again. And within 3 months, my migraine headaches were completely gone, but I had really tapped into an entire new field of creativity and, began to understand the connection, as you know, in Ayurveda between the gut and the whole body. But for me, the gut and the mind in particular. And that essentially just transformed my career. And there was really no looking back from that moment forward.
Wow. And, so fortunate, going back to the start of your story, how your mother happened to go to the specialist who didn't put her on the Western medicine route, but introduced her to transcendental meditation and, and reintroduced your mother back into her own traditions from her upbringing in India and how that weave through.
It's amazing that if he hadn't done it, my mom, when you look at my mom among the Indian community, she's the only one that's really, involved in these ancient practices such as mantra meditation and Ayurveda. And it came from a Western trained physician. And I think that is, and when you look at how that impacted my life, my sister's life, and now all of my patients' lives, that is the power of being a healthcare worker when you introduce somebody to a powerful, positive habit of how much that can transform, the world. Yeah. I mean, look how far-reaching his recommendation has gone.
That vibrational outreach, no pun intended, but it has been huge and such an impact on your life. So then, during your studies and going through these severe migraines and looking for solutions, that you were reintroduced to all these great traditions again. And then you brought this into your practice as well, right? Into your neurology practice.
What happened was, once I realized how powerfully helpful it was for myself, once I became a patient, as I say, on the other side of the stethoscope, right. For me, I hit an ethical question of I cannot keep something that is working for me as a patient from my own patients. And so even though there was that, a little bit of that initial hesitation of, okay, so how do I incorporate this into a traditional allopathic, practice where everything is about pills, and how am I going to explain this to my colleagues? All of that just fell to the side when I realized that I could be helping patients benefit the way that I benefited. And I'll be honest, Colette, in the beginning, I thought at most maybe I could, help conditions like migraines or reduce a few medications for chronic neurodegenerative conditions. I never imagined that we would be able to slow down and at times even reverse, conditions like multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's disease. So it caught me off guard as well.
Wow. So what were you introducing to your clients? Could you give us an example of a case study that you have where you really saw the profound effect that these ancient traditions, these ancient teachings had on your client?
Well, I always started heavily on lifestyle first. And I think that is something that many Ayurvedic practitioners, particularly in India, ironically, they tend to leave out the lifestyle medicine. They're really being taught now in many of the medical colleges, the Ayurvedic medical colleges, to treat Ayurveda like allopathic medicine. So heavy on supplements and not really talking about lifestyle. And lifestyle to me is 80% of the solution. And I guess, the upside of having America have such awful habits was it was so easy. Even small changes made such a huge difference. And I also went very, very slowly, because if you're going to truly change habits, they take time, and I would not overwhelm them by giving them, 15 new habits. We really started with 2 to 3 at a time, and then they would come back in a month.
So I have to interrupt this conversation to emphasize a point that Dr. Chaudhary just made. She said that when she starts with a client treatment, she begins with lifestyle habits first. And she believes that lifestyle habits are 80% of the solution. Now, we talk about that a lot on this podcast, about the importance of daily habits, the importance of these daily self-care practices, which are called dinacharya in Ayurveda. And Ayurveda puts great emphasis on having a daily routine to help keep your body and mind in balance. And we need this now more than ever. I'm recording this podcast episode in April 2020, when the world is dealing with COVID-19. There's a lot of stress and anxiety and uncertainty, and our nervous system is definitely activated with this situation. So having a daily practice of self-care habits, of your dinacharya, taking care of yourself, putting your self-care as a priority right now is so important, as this will calm your nervous system. It will help you get good night's sleep. It will aid digestion, will aid elimination. It will keep the doshas in balance, and it will keep your mind in balance as well. So please work on really bringing in these daily dinacharya right now and see them as a priority. while you're trying to keep your body and mind in balance during this time when there can be a lot of anxiety and stress. Now, if you want some help around this, I am putting on discount right now, a special discount of 20% on my online Daily Habits for Holistic Health course. This Daily Habits course, like I said, it's online, it's self-paced, it's 28 days. And throughout the 28 days, we're implementing these daily self-care practices. We're putting in place triggers to help you to have success with these habits. We're going to talk about not only the circadian rhythms and making sure that you're tuned into the circadian rhythms to keep your body and mind in balance, but also the mental gunas of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas and how to keep them in balance with mindfulness techniques. We're also going to talk about becoming your own healer, taking responsibility for your own health and how to keep your body and mind in balance. And we also talk about the power of positivity, the power of compassion, and developing your intuition so that you can have that awareness and reading the signals from your body and mind. So if you're interested in some support around implementing these daily habits, please check out the link in the show notes to receive that 20% discount. It's a limited time offer. I discounted it right now because I believe people really need this information right now. And you can also visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. Go to the events tab and you'll see the link there for the special discount on this Daily Habits course. Okay, let's go back to this great conversation.
But, a simple example, like for one of my multiple sclerosis patients, when I actually started asking how people were living, how were they eating? How were they sleeping? What were their stress levels in life? When I actually started asking those questions, I was shocked to find that, my patient with multiple sclerosis was drinking 8 sodas a day. 8 sodas a day. Oh I was just flabbergasted. And, all of her other neurologists and physicians, they really upheld the belief that what you put into your body does not impact conditions like multiple sclerosis. So I started with my patients just looking at, a food and beverage inventory and started shifting, the kinds of things that they were eating that were just overtly, unhealthy and never going, come off the soda, but going from 8, to 6 to then 5. And before I did anything to treat the actual disease. So before I would start herbs for things like multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's disease, I always first focused on healing the gut and shifting the microbiome. Because as soon as we healed the gut and we shifted the microbiome, people naturally began to make healthier decisions. And I wrote my first book, The Prime, is all about that, which is you cannot make significant dietary changes without first shifting the gut. And so I would put them on a program for detoxification, shifting the microbiome, and really clearing a lot of the toxins from the body. And then I would go deeper into the specific dietary recommendations for their particular dosha, and then go into the herbs for the nervous system. So that was my approach was, any kind of egregious habits address alongside with a program for detoxification and shifting the microbiome. And then after that shift has taken place, it's very easy to introduce larger dietary changes and then herbs that are specific for the condition.
Right. And then you started introducing some TM, some mantras, some making some suggestions then once you had them more in balance.
Absolutely. So I always think it's very important to know your audience and to know what their priorities are. And if somebody is struggling with, devastating fatigue, that's not necessarily the time to introduce meditation. That their need scales are on a more basic level. And even though mantra meditation would help tremendously, it's going to feel like too big of a leap. Yeah. And so once their gut was functioning better, and, if your gut is functioning better, your thoughts and your mind are functioning better, then I would begin to introduce, things like mantra meditation, and say, look, this is now the next step. And what was wonderful is once they started the mantra meditation, we were able to, further reduce some of their allopathic medications, but we were also able to further reduce their herbal supplements. And I reminded them that the goal of Ayurvedic medicine also is not to have you on herbs for the rest of your life, but to manage your body, manage your mind in a way so that, you're using herbs once in a while, or maybe seasonally, or if something comes up, you're using it at those times, but not relying on them. And so that started to create, once people started to, fix their gut and do the mantra meditation, once we had the gut and the mind addressed, then people started to feel that freedom and independence within, their body and mind, and started to realize that they can proactively make choices to prevent disease from coming.
Yeah, so wonderful. And what amazing work you did there. You really shifted this neurology practice into more of an integrative medicine practice, right?
Absolutely. And there came a point, I was trained as a neurologist, and so I had this hang up that I am a neurologist and I should be seeing neurological patients.
Right.
And what happened is, my patients, when they would do better, they said, look, this is working for my MS, my husband who has rheumatoid arthritis, or my, daughter that has menstrual problems, or my son who has IBS. Could they come in? And it finally hit me that when you go into holistic traditions like Ayurvedic medicine, even though you may have special training in a particular field, you really become a global doctor. I mean, you really, anybody who steps into your office, you have something to offer them. And even though I wouldn't do like some of the laboratory investigations on the allopathic side for conditions that I wasn't trained in, from an Ayurvedic standpoint, it was always the same. You always first start with the gut, and then you address the mind. And then you can choose some specific herbs for, the condition, but it was always the same recipe in terms of how do you heal from the inside out. So then my practice eventually became, anybody who walked through the door, and most of my patients were people who said, you're the 17th doctor I've seen. I don't know why I'm here. So-and-so recommended you. And so that became my specialty, where the patients who couldn't find help anywhere else, they came to me.
Oh my goodness. These poor patients who have been through so many different doctors, they must have felt so taken care of and also understood. Because that's the hard thing, is that when you're, as a patient, if you have all these conditions and you feel like nobody's understanding your condition, I think that's really, really hard. But like you said, in Ayurveda, healing the gut can resolve a lot of issues without giving herbal treatments. And then after you heal the gut, then seeing what's left to deal with and so on, and bringing the mental practice in. And so how then was there this connection between your integrative medicine practice and then going to India? And we're gonna fast forward a lot here, but this is fascinating because no doubt you were learning so much along the way as you're, dealing with these clients and introducing them to these new practices.
It was such a steep learning curve, and I was having so much fun at it. I think anybody who is working with neurological patients, when you start to find something that's actually working, I would really come into work every single day, just so excited to see my patients. And, as you mentioned, because they were feeling understood and they were feeling taken care of, there was so much love. I mean, there was just so much love, between our practice, our staff, the doctors, and the patients, that it was a wonderful environment. And so I think when you're passionate about anything, it grows. And so my career started just growing leaps and bounds. I started being invited to do television. We did 13 episodes with the Dr. Oz show. We had a wonderful relationship with him and his staff there. They were very supportive. And then I was asked to write my first book on the brain-gut connection and, how that also impacted people's weight. And so things were just kind of rolling along. And then from there, I took kind of the natural next step, which was I became a co-founder of a company. We were looking to build the first natural healthcare system in the world. And we were having, tremendous success with that as well, and starting to bring, different organizations together. But then I hit this kind of critical point where, I wasn't sure if this was really the next step I wanted to take. Some of the, which I think just naturally happens as any business starts to grow bigger, the influences that were coming in weren't as pure as the original intention. And we were starting to kind of look more like a healthcare company that happened to do natural medicine, but we were starting to lose a little bit of that purity from the beginning. And so right around this time, I was really looking to take a step back and say, hold on, what do I really want to do? And my spiritual teacher in India, happened to call at the same time, and which was also very unusual for me to get just this very strong draw to come. And it was the first time in my life I took a one-way ticket anywhere. And I went and I just began meditating for most of the day. I had, taken a step back from the company, and I spent 3 months there, predominantly in deep meditation. And at the end of those 3 months, she called and said, that there is a project being created, a holistic center that will bring back the Siddha tradition, and that all of these traditional Siddha palm leaves had been given to her, which is unbelievable because these are highly, highly, highly guarded. Just unbelievably guarded information. And she asked if I would be the administrative head. And for me, although it was, it's not a small decision to leave a first world country and go to a third world country. Now, I didn't go with like these romanticized ideas of how easy it was going to be to, do something in a third world country. But for me, I had this fascination with Siddha medicine and had given up on it 10 years ago, just realizing, it was 10 years at that time, realizing that there was nobody who was available to me who was authentically a part of the tradition. And for me, it was just this, it wasn't even a once in a lifetime opportunity. I would be, I think, the first Western trained physician that was ever being invited into this highly guarded medical and spiritual tradition. And I just was like, there's even if this whole project went sour, there was no way I could live with myself saying I did not explore that opportunity.
Oh my goodness. What an opportunity. And it was, like you said, a no-brainer. This landed here for a reason. So in your bio, you mentioned that you're studying these ancient Siddha texts, and I'm not familiar with Siddha medicine, which is, I guess, over 8,000 years old. Can you tell us a little bit more about this mysterious ancient medicine?
I would love to. So yes, it's over 8,000 years old. It is actually, I always thought Ayurveda was the oldest medical tradition on the planet, but Siddha medicine is even older than Ayurvedic medicine. And there are several similarities in terms of the tridoshic theory. And so there's a basic understanding of life that is very similar. And I say now, this next sentence I'm about to say, I say with a tremendous amount of love and respect for Ayurvedic medicine. But where Ayurvedic medicine ends, that is where Siddha medicine begins. Siddha medicine is native to Tamil Nadu, which is in South India, and it came about from the Siddha masters. So the Siddha masters, how do I describe them? I look at them as the original quantum biologists. They were enlightened beings, enlightened souls that instead of just kind of leaving their bodies and saying, oh, I'm enlightened, they decided to further explore nature, the human body, human existence. And they understood the human body and the human mind from a quantum level, so from a subatomic level. So 8,000 years ago, they were describing the atom and the subatomic, particles, and they have this unbelievable combination of you know, deeply, deeply understood scientific beliefs. All of their writings are in poetry, so they were extremely artistic and poetic. But what we would call spirituality to them, it was not spirituality. It was just a direct understanding of nature, of life. And so their temples were not, physical structures. Their temples were nature. They understood the reality of nature on such a deep level. And so their medical system came from this unbelievable understanding. And, the way I describe the difference is if Ayurvedic medicine is looking through that going through the physical body and clearing the different sheets and going through the body and the mind, eventually to reach our cosmic source of energy, right? Mm-hmm. That is ultimately the path of Ayurveda, is to clear all of these channels so that we can reach that source. And you can call it different things. You can call it, the divine source, or you can call it nature, you can call it spirit, you can call it soul. We call it so many different things. But we know that whatever that is, it contains a massive amount of energy. And if you can tap into that healing energy, you can transform the body and the mind. The Siddhas approached this differently, and this is what makes their system so unique and so powerful. They actually created technologies that first connect to that inner reality, to that inner energy, and they bring that out to the body and the mind. So the treatments are just, if you don't understand the science behind them, they feel magical because it's such a massive shift. But when you understand the science behind it, you realize that this is just knowledge that we have lost. And so, what would take maybe in Ayurveda 3 to 6 months of a herbal treatment, the Siddha treatments, it's within a week. It's a very profoundly powerful medical treatment. I feel it's really for those that want to go beyond just the body and the mind. It's really for those who want to understand their true nature and need the physical and mental support to kind of take that, what we now call a spiritual journey, but really it's not a spiritual journey. It's understanding what human potential is. Mm-hmm. It's for those that want to unlock their human potential. That is really what Siddha medicine has been created for.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. This is why I could not give up this opportunity.
Yeah. And so these ancient texts were carved into these leaves
Yes. They were carved into these leaves and they were replicated. And they were carved into these leaves and they were held in the guardianship of either people of that lineage. Mm-hmm. So either passed down from one generation to another or from one master to the next. And they were guarded in these sacred temples in South India. And every about 250 years, they had to transcribe them again because they were meant to be impermanent. The information on them is so powerful. They were never meant to be held permanently, and they were meant to be held within a lineage that could reproduce them. Mm. And so I had heard of this. I had, in the early ages when I had learned about Ayurvedic medicine, I happened to come across a little bit about Siddha medicine. There's almost nothing written about it. And so I started looking like, who knows how to do this? And there was just but there were people who were Siddha doctors, but not Siddha masters. And that's very, very different. So when this came up to me, it was just like, I was dumbfounded that I was even being offered this opportunity. And even though it meant giving up everything, which is typically the price, which I found out afterwards of having anything to do with this tradition, is there's a tremendous leap of faith and you are asked to give up everything that you are. I had to give up, everything that I was known as. I literally had to become no one doing nothing, wow. In India. And that's the typical asking price to enter into their field of knowledge.
So you did this 3 months of meditation. You're shedding of out all your Western stuff, right? And
not just Western stuff. It was shedding every program about myself. I mean, it was such a hard thing to get to the point to even be asked to be a part of the project. And because even when we say Western, that's still kind of a program we hold. Yeah. And so I was just shedding everything about myself, being identification with being a woman, identification with being Western, identification of everything to get to this unbelievably settled and pure state where I was then just experiencing being. And I hate it when people talk in such abstract terms like that, like what the heck is being? But that's all it was, is I only knew the present moment. And in the present moment, there was guidance for everything. Right. And it was only when I got into that state and was able to maintain that state, throughout the day, that I started to have these, very profound experiences. And I think if I didn't have those profound experiences, I would not have been ready to have accepted this offer, because in that total silence, you're able to see the expansiveness of who you really are. And in that expansiveness, you just feel so fluid and you feel everything is possible, that you're able to take that leap of faith.
Right. And like you said, you're guided in every moment. So now you have the awareness and you're getting that guidance in the moment of what the next step is. So there's less of a mind in the future state. There's less of a searching, because you're trusting.
It's exactly right. Yeah, no, it's exactly right. And of course, though, and I had that being in India in that, in that kind of cocoon state. Of course, once I came back and realized what I did, there was immediate panic set in. But the beauty is, once you have that experience, you can't unknow something that you know. Yeah. And so once I knew that peacefulness was there, I was still able to, connect back to it, but it wasn't in that pure fluid state of those, 3 months. I'm slowly getting back into that state, now over time, where I can maintain it more and more. Even in the midst of activity, I'm able to maintain it more and more. But that was just like, there was like almost no interruption to that state, 24 hours a day. It was really a phenomenal experience.
That is amazing. And that was needed at that time, at that moment, so that you could enter this study of Siddha medicine.
It's exactly right. And even the word study, though, I've got to tell you, I thought it would be something like, oh, we're sitting down, we're looking at palm leaves. The way that you learn Siddha medicine also is, everything about them is just so kind of unique. But I will be like sometimes sitting with Amma, my spiritual teacher in India, and I'm just downloading information, and I don't even realize that I have learned something until I leave. And then I all of a sudden go, oh, I suddenly know this information. Where did this information come from?
Oh my goodness.
When did I learn this?
Wow. That's incredible. Incredible experiences. And, you mentioned that in Siddha medicine, they understood nature at a really deep level. And Can you tell us a little bit about, this connection to nature and this use of sound and vibration? Is that what they used in these treatments to heal
Very
the body,
much.
mind?
Yeah, there was nothing in Siddha medicine that sound was not a part of. And so they had a direct experience that the universe is a vibrational reality. And when we think about sound, we have kind of a very egocentric definition of sound, because what we consider sound is what the human ear is able to pick up as acoustic messaging to the brain. But, there's other animals that can pick up frequencies that we don't pick up. And so sound is, in my new definition of sound, it's not just what we hear, it's the vibrations all around us that can be perceived on subtler levels through subtler senses. And so sound isn't just what you pick up with your ears, but is the vibrations that can be directly experienced in the forms of thought. They can even be experienced, they can be translated into light. And that's where, many of these, enlightened beings or masters would have visual interpretations. So they would be able to see the inner workings of the galaxies and of the human body. And so these are really vibrations that were bathed in. And because they were able to perceive them, they were able to use these vibrations in the form of mantras. And so mantras were the audible version of these frequencies that they were perceiving that were frequencies of life. They were the underlying frequencies that from where life erupted. So they would use mantras even in the preparation of the herbs, even all the way to the level of planting of the seeds, when they were harvested, when patients were given herbs, they were given mantras to recite while they were taking the herbs. And mantras were simply a part of everyday life. Mantras were used directly for healing. Mantras were seen as a form of medicine. And so even at the center, we have created in Tamil Nadu, in India, the center has been created so that as we are interpreting this information from these Siddha texts, we are immediately implementing it at the center. It's just the most exquisite experience as both a physician and as a neuroscientist to be able to take something and then implement it, and then to be able to see, like, is it working? How is it working? How fast is it working? So every single day at the center, and by the way, we will be doing scientific studies on this in the future. I want to be looking at genetic changes in particular in response to our interventions.
Oh my goodness, amazing.
Yeah, no, I've got a whole list of things that, I plan for this lifetime. But we start every single morning at the center with a sound bath, and we use both Sanskrit mantras as well as some of these very, very ancient mantras in Tamil, which is the oldest language on the planet, older than Sanskrit. And that is how we begin our day, and that is how we end our day. Wow. So the Siddhas understood vibrational medicine, and not just on a theoretical level, but they understood how to implement vibrational medicine. And when you implement medicine on a vibrational level, you're implementing it on such a fundamental level that it has a profound effect. And that's why, I look at it as where Ayurveda ends, that's where Siddha medicine begins, because they take it further. They're able to penetrate, both the body and the mind with their techniques, because they're all vibrationally based.
And our bodies are designed to vibrate, right?
Yes, we have structures on our cells called primary cilia that actually pick up vibration, and they change the structure of the cell in response to vibration. And even though, I always tell people that you're not going to find something until you start looking for it. So you're not going to find evidence that we respond to sound until you start to accept that there is a vibrational basis for human existence and for medicine. There's a vibrational basis for using sound as medicine. So it's only once you start to accept the science that you start looking for the evidence of it. But this shouldn't be a surprise. Anybody who has been greeted with loving words versus an argument knows that we respond to sound.
Right.
I mean, how quickly does your body react to hearing a negative word versus, a positive word? And, Hollywood knows this, the entertainment industry knows this. You would never have a movie without a soundtrack, because you won't have the same emotional response. And even when people work out, what do? They bring their playlist. And most people, like, if they don't have their playlist, they'll notice that they don't get the same kind of workout. Why? How is that possible that sound can have such a profound effect? So sound translates into biology. And even in modern medicine, we are using techniques like technologies like ultrasound, which is a form of sound medicine. We're just not expanding our techniques to audible sound and seeing how else can we be using sound in a purposeful way to unlock, not just treating disease, but unlock human potential.
Right, exactly. And unfortunately, we lost that connection and that understanding of the importance of sound in modern medicine, even though, like you said, we're using it in ultrasound and EKGs, right? But there is a reemergence of sound medicine today with the biofield science that you were talking about in your book. Can you explain to us what is biofield science and how this science can help connect the modern Western science and ancient Eastern traditions?
Absolutely. So the biofield science came out of a committee that met within the NIH to attempt to bridge this gap between, Eastern and Western medical perspectives. Because the challenge with modern medicine is that if you don't have a biological paradigm to explain something, then even if you can prove that it works, the medical community won't accept it. So that means, even if you can prove that, Reiki does have an effect, the medical community won't accept it because we don't have a biological model that explains why would Reiki be able to heal. And so there is a group of scientists and physicians who clearly saw that there were these traditional practices that were working and that we were proving were working, through different clinical studies that were designed exactly the same way as, modern medical clinical studies were being designed. But the medical community refused to accept them because of a lack of an acceptable biological model. And so this group of physicians and scientists came together and said, well, we need something that bridges a new understanding of the human body and the human mind, that we're not just, skin and bone and muscle, but there are actually fields that are part of human existence. And we measure these fields. We measure these fields when we do an EKG. We measure these fields when we do EEGs, but we are not teaching our young physicians in training that the human body is also a field. It's and therefore it can have field effects. And so when we start to look at the field effects of certain treatments, then we begin to introduce concepts that allow us to both be vibrational beings as well as skin and bone. It starts to bridge, this gap. And so it's in a very exciting, new area. And it's an area that allows us to do studies using some of these ancient ideas, which are, in like the Siddha medicine records, but actually be able to do studies and say, hold on, we need to change even the kind of equipment we have to start to measure field effects of an implementation. So when somebody is exposed to sound medicine, for example, in addition to looking at shifts of biomarkers, if we were able to actually measure the fields around that person, how is that shifting?
It's kind of like an amazing way now that with this biofield science that we can get into the Western medical community and start introducing these ancient traditions.
Absolutely. And you know what? I always tell physicians who are interested, I never try to convince anybody to do anything they don't want to do. But what I always tell physicians who are interested is it enriches your medical practice so much, and I understand the hesitation because we spend decades learning a certain model and and these are long decades, like these are hours and hours and hours of working, no sleep, long studying. And so you don't want to come out of a tradition like that to know that you didn't get it right or that you didn't get the full picture. I mean, that's a very daunting outcome to such a rigorous training. But I always just remind, physicians that it's such a rich way of practicing. You have access to tools that are so profound. They work so well. And you begin to unlock a completely new relationship with your patients because now it's a relationship around healing instead of just disease management. Right. And that just enriches your relationship with your patients in a way that I could have never imagined. And just a degree of, in addition to love and respect, just total regard for one another, as two people, as two human beings embarking on a journey for the betterment of the patient.
Yeah, because you're now in that person's energy field and there's more communication going on than just, take these herbs and do this routine and so on. There's an energetic transfer.
Exactly.
Right, which is amazing.
And also there's the shift in the whole family. And so they're not just improving because of their health. I mean, just like my mom, my sister and I became different people because of it. And so you see a shift in the whole family. You see a shift in how they're engaging with people at work. that their entire life gets better, and they credit you as the physician who has introduced this new way of healing into their lives. They credit you for that. And it's an unbelievably rewarding relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. Such exciting times, Dr. Chaudhary, and such exciting new science that's going back to this ancient wisdom, these ancient traditions that I think we need to go back to now and listen to that, because we've lost our way. So we just need to combine the two to go forward. And like you said, and a word that always resonates with me is having humility to listen to these ancient wisdoms.
It's interesting because I did not get a lot of information about the Siddhas before I started on this path. And then once in India, especially in Tamil Nadu, and I think this is true whenever you start any path, then the information starts coming to you. But as I started getting some of the ancient writing, the one thing that is consistent about the Siddha tradition is there are two things. One, it comes at a huge cost. I need to correct it. It seems like it comes at a huge cost. It's a seeming cost. It feels like you're giving up something enormous, but it's the exact opposite reality. You are being given something that is immeasurable, is absolutely priceless. So it's always this feeling of like you have to take this huge leap of faith, and it feels like you're giving up something enormous. And the other theme is you must come with humility. If you do not come with humility, you will not enter. And I am very, very honest about, the first 2 years of being in India was just honestly about beating up my ego into a pulp. Like it was just every possible way that I could have experienced arrogance or, a clinging to any kind of a role that I ever had in life. That was just stripped from me left and right. And I spent literally just the first 2 years was just, and now we're going to take this away. And now we're going to teach you how to be more humble in this way. And those life lessons just came like a waterfall beating me down. Right. And that was the preparation to really be able to enter, just starting to get a glimpse of the world. And that's what this book is. It's an offering to the world who doesn't have access, to being in this remote village in South India to these ancient records. I'm trying to create a bridge for people through these books so that they still have access to this unbelievably beautiful and magical and scientifically advanced world of the Siddhas.
That's it. And this is what we need right now, as we're going through this COVID-19 pandemic in the world, and our energy fields are certainly feeling this vibration throughout the world. I can't imagine the effect it's having on the energy field of the world. And we need this information. And we also need to have humility that we're going in the wrong direction and things need to change at this time. And I'd love for you to maybe, if you could share with the listeners today some mantra practice, something that they could do at this time, very simple practice they could do at this time to increase their energy field in their body to help them through this difficult time in the world.
Oh, I would love to. And there's actually a specific mantra. We started doing it at the center once the reports from China started coming out. There's a specific mantra that it helps to protect from negativity in general, but it was used for preventing viral outbreaks. So I would love to share that. So the mantra is Om Kreem Mahakali Sarvarogam Nasi Nasi. And so with chanting it, it sounds like Om Kreem Mahakali Sarvarogam Nasi Nasi. And this is a mantra to the aspect of the Divine Mother or Mother Earth, whatever you associate with that divine feminine energy that is extremely protective. And the mantra, the vibration of the mantra is literally take away all negativity, which is sarvarogam, all negativity that affects the mind and the body, take it away, take it away. And I'm happy to send you a written copy of that so that you can post it for your audience so they can actually see it. for any mantra practice, if people are able to do it, like slowly work up to 30 minutes a day, that is how long it usually takes just to negate all the negative vibrations that you are, otherwise exposed to in the day.
Wow. So sitting in a quiet place, repeating it out to yourself.
Yes, you can start first by repeating it out loud. And then once you become familiar with it, you can just repeat it in your mind. And we actually have groups that meet via Zoom around the world, and we do this together. So you can do this also in groups, and just ask people to join you via Zoom or however you want for a 30-minute mantra practice.
That's beautiful, because that's what we need now to make sure we're shifting this energy, because if the whole world is involved in this pandemic, the energy of the world is affected by this. So each of us doing our mantra vibrational practice will really help. And if we can get into groups, that vibration can expand out to the world, which would be really beneficial at this time.
Absolutely.
Dr. Chaudhary, I could talk to you for hours. I have so many more questions, but I know I have to leave you go now. But I do highly, highly recommend Dr. Chaudhary's book, Sound Medicine. It's an amazing read. I was glued to it. I've highlighted page after page in it. And I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us here today. And I'd love for you to tell the listeners where they can find out a bit more about you, your books, including this wonderful new book, Sound Medicine, and the newly opened Sri Narayani Holistic Center in Tamil Nadu.
So people can easily find me on social media just under my name, Kulreet Chaudhary, or on my website, which is Dr. and then Kulreet Chaudhary. And there's a link on our website also to the center, but the center's website is SNH Center with the British spelling, which is CNTRE.com. And I'll send you a link if your audience is interested in the group that is chanting this mantra in France. They're actually doing it in France.
Oh, really? Okay, great,
Yes.
Great. Do they have a lot of my listeners are in the States as well? Do they have one, or is it just international group in France?
No, we have also in the US.
Okay,
I'll send you a few links. We have
fantastic.
East Coast link, West Coast link, and our link in France.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I will put all those links in the show notes. And Dr. Chaudhary, I know you have to go to another call now, so I really appreciate your time. Just a wealth of information. And I am so honored to talk to you and so thankful for all the work you're doing in this world. You're going to lead us in the right direction, I feel.
It was my pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did with Dr. Chaudhary, and I will put all the links to Dr. Chaudhary's website, the Holistic Center in Tamil Nadu, and the mantra and Zoom groups in the show notes, so please check that out. This time it's so important to take good care of yourself, implement your dinacharya, your daily self-care habits, and if you want support, take advantage of my 20% discount on the Daily Habits for Holistic Health course. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if you need further support in an online consult, please contact me. I also offer the free 15-minute call if you want to chat with me in advance of booking anything. So take good care of yourself, stay safe and healthy, and ciao for now.